GM.
Yo, dude, 4K, ETH 4K,
4K
GM. It's 8 a.m. here in
GM,
Hawaii.
GM. Happy Friday.
Dude, it's good to have you back again, man.
Feels like we're good, and then we're there, and then we're here, and then we're back. There's been a lot of trials and tribulations all throughout the roll-up world these last few weeks, and I think a return to normal is welcomed.
Yeah, tell us about your tweet, man. You had a heartfelt tweet. That was like your first tweet in 6 months. It was based.
I mean, I think that was just kind of like where the organization is at these days. Like, you know, we're a very close-knit team. I think we're at, you know, probably a half dozen full-time. And, you know, these guys are literally family, like, you know, a couple brothers on the team. And there's been a lot of trials and tribulations, personal family matters. And I feel like especially on crypto Twitter, like things get so jaded. There's such a detachment from like reality, things that like, kind of really matter. And I think a lot of times, you know, especially going to conferences, meeting people, like, you know, we see these people, they're real people, but I think people lose that on Twitter too much. You get, you know, this avatar, this profile picture, and don't really have a understanding of, you know, there's a real person behind that. But with that being said, I mean, you know where we're at. You know, we've had a lot of the team deal with some pretty heavy family situations, and so because we're such a close team, we've been together for 5 years. We talk on the daily. Like, you know, these guys, you know, it feels like we're all. I feel like people say that, but like, I don't know. That's kind of trite to say. Is like we're you know, more than coworkers, we're family. But it really feels like. You know, we go way back, you know, you and I, right? Like back to 2017 in college, like we were friends before we were co-founders. And so I can honestly say that, you know, if we were to stop the roll up, a lot of the people that we work with and we have on the team would continue to be friends with. And so it just means that like when one of us, you know, is hurt, we pick each other up. I think that's what makes a good team. And so, yeah, it's been a heavy few weeks, as you know, and now the rest of our network knows. And yeah, I think everyone on the team is picking each other up, and that's why, you know, we have a resilient and we have an incredible team. I think we have an incredible team, and we're gonna make it through. We're gonna be even stronger as a result of some of those trials and tribulations now. So. It's a lot to unpack, but I am very excited to get back into the swing of things. Obviously, the market is on an incredible tear. We've got thoughts and opinions on that. A lot of our partners are going through really successful launches. We'll have Link, who just launched Tap to Pay debit card. They're doing some really cool things with private stablecoin transactions. I was just in SBC last week. The commissioner of the SEC, Hester Pierce, put a phenomenal speech on, kind of brought up a story of her own grandfather eating peanut butter and watermelon. And like, why do those two things go together? Just like, why do privacy and stable coins go together? Yeah. And so there's you know, there's a lot of exciting things happening. It's just been, just to kind of close this monologue, it's been a very conflicting few weeks because, and I tried to convey this, but we've had, you know, such a successful stint and stretch in our business over the last few months, the industry, us included, you know, we've had such a successful stretch. But that is in contrast to, you know, some of the more trying personal matters. And so I'm looking for kind of these two things to sort of converge again, and us to kind of return to kind of a mean reversion, if you will, on both fronts, and continue on the upward momentum that we had going into that and now coming out of it. How are you feeling? You know, you've been going through, you know, things yourself. The team has been going through things. You're, you know, just as close to this as I am. What you know, what is your head and your heart saying?
Dude, I'm cruising, man. I am in Hawaii. It is 8 a.m. and we have a big swell coming this weekend. I'm going to surf my brains out today. And the market's ripping. Dude, I mean, that was a great intro. I think that you know, I've processed all of these situations in my own way, but dude, I'm full steam ahead. We're cruising, and the market's ripping and things are good. So I don't want to show any weakness, man. There's a lot of competition in this live stream space now. It's not easy being the first movers. Now we have to innovate and adapt, which I think there's a lot of cool things coming. That's what I was teasing some of the people when I was in Sweden, I think, doing the streams about what we have coming. And so, yeah, I'm pretty stoked on that. So that, amongst other things, is where my head's at. And yeah, man, ETH at 40.46, up almost 4% today. The whole market looks great. So I'm pretty bullish. I'm pretty stoked to be here. We got Sid from Pay. We got Preston, the Gigabrain from Sovereign Labs. And we got Shiv from Boundless to verify the signal. So should be a banger stream. I'm stoked on it. I think we get Sid up here immediately next and get started. So yeah, Rob, let's hear about this new Visa card that they just launched. Got a ton of views.
Full steam ahead.
A lot of engagement on Twitter. So pretty stoked on that. And yeah, we'll hear what it's all about. We'll hear some of the pros and cons, learn about that, learn what Sid's seeing in stablecoins. And we'll move to Preston and then to Shiv. So somewhat of a technical vibe today, but we have a half hour after Sid to talk markets. So yeah, that's where we're at. That's how I'm feeling. That's how I'm doing. We're back at the Rollup TV. And it's good to be here. So yeah, man.
Yeah, we'll get Sid up here in just a moment. Full steam ahead sounds like the right approach, the right mindset as well. It's basically like, look, you know, we have all of this momentum. It's time to embrace and capitalize on that momentum. And I think there's layers to that. I think, you know, we are ready to capitalize on multiple levels. So that being said, we're going to get Sid in here. A successful launch goes a long, long way. Sid, congrats, man. Congrats on the successful launch of the tap to pay, the card, the pay link. It's exciting times, private stablecoin transactions. What's your, like, how are you feeling after a successful launch? It's just kind of, you probably have the sense of relief, but also the sense of like, okay, job not finished. We're just getting started. What has been the reaction and how are you feeling?
I think the reaction has been like absolutely tremendous. I mean, I think when you've been building something for so long, kind of quietly, and you know that it's like so massive, and then you launch it, and then you get that confirmation. Like, I've just been absolutely over the moon. We've gotten tons of inbound, tons of users, like, and some like real engagement. Like sometimes, you know, like on crypto Twitter, you see some posts and like they have like 1 million views, and then it's just like GMs, like in the replies. And like, I think what was really cool about this post was that like there was people posting screenshots of like their pay card. There's people posting videos of them using it. Like, it was so real. And I think that is what I wanted to get across. Even our launch video was just like shots of like, you know, someone using the pay card at a terminal. Like, that's what it was supposed to be, like, not overproduced, super real. And I think that came through and people saw that.
Dude, the announcement slapped. That was hit like 400K views, bruh.
Yeah, it was like 400K really good views.
Dude, I gotta ask though, why did you use the hyphen or like the dash? I feel like everyone nowadays is like, yo, man, if you're using these dashes, it's like AI generated. People are like allergic to these dashes now, man.
Dude, I've been using, so they're called EM dashes, right? So they're the length,
yeah.
Like if you know typography, they're the length of an M. That's like the typographical standard. There's also EN dashes, N is in Nancy, which is like the length of an N. So I've been using EM dashes for like 10 years, bro. So like, I can't stop using them.
AI one-shotted your entire writing style, bruh.
I guess ChatGPT was training on my Reddit posts, so like, yeah.
Dude, so how did you guys come up with the idea? Talk to me about this light up feature. Why did you guys choose to make that a reality with the pay card? How does that even happen?
So like all the way back, like in January, when we were like starting to discuss building pay card, and actually I'd already taken some steps like implementing it. I had this really strong feeling that if we just launched yet another crypto card, like it would just be like, okay, cool. They're saying it has some privacy in it, but like, oh, it's just another crypto card, right? And now 6 months, like 7 months down the line, we see that like there are like 1,000 crypto cards, and I feel like every week someone's launching a crypto card, right? So I had this really deep feeling that like if we didn't make it really special in some way, like there's the value side of special. It's like the right curve of like, oh, it's like ZK shielded and like all this crazy shit we did. But there has to be a left curve special as well. And originally I wanted to do a glow in the dark card. So like you go to like a bar or a club and it glows. And it's actually really annoying because you have to like charge. You know, if you've used glow in the dark stuff before, you have to like charge it in the sun.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, it's gonna be in people's wallets. Like no one's gonna charge it in the sun. That's lame. Then I found these guys building this card with a literal OLED screen embedded in it. And so the pay card, the physical pay card, like I have one here, right? So it like in here, it has an OLED screen and it harvests the energy from the NFC when you tap to pay to light up the OLED screen momentarily. So there's no like battery or charging or anything like that.
What? Harvest? Okay, when you say harvesting the energy, I'm like, that, how does that, do you have any, like, because NFC is not even, they don't even touch, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
How do you draw the energy out of something without even, like, there's no connection whatsoever. You're just you're just near it.
Yeah, you're just near it. So you have to go into like electrical engineering a little bit. So radio waves, right? Like when you're listening to the radio, right? Like no one does that, but like when you do that, well, radio waves actually carry electromagnetic energy. And all your like little radio box does is it actually amplifies the existing signal. So like if you had like ultra superhuman hearing, you could actually hear radio waves. Like they exist and they have energy.
Kind of like infrared for light. Like it's just outside our purview. Okay.
Exactly that. Yeah, radio waves are like, you know, way further away on the spectrum of visible light. But yeah, and so what this does is there's a chip inside that harvests that like tiny little bit of energy from the NFC and the POS system, and it uses that to power the OLED screen. Like obviously this is really hard, hard tech stuff. So like it's absolutely crazy, and it's cool that it works.
Yeah, I mean, we don't get into the hardware side of things too much, especially on the like we get a little bit into the AI, the robotic side of things, and talk about hardware a little bit. But yeah, I mean, drawing energy from radio waves is something that we haven't quite scratched. And so you just happened upon these guys kind of doing some product research, trying to see like what some card types were out there. You happen to come into contact, and then it was like, okay, yeah, that's what this needs.
Yeah, it's kind of a relationship that like kind of bloomed over time. Like they showed me like a demo on like this, you know, blank card, and I was like, "But you're telling me like we can ship this?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's gonna take like a couple months to get into production." I was like, "Great, that's like works for our timeline," and like everything came together, dude. Like, yeah,
Sick.
It's crazy.
So, Sid, talk to us about some of the stablecoin aspect of this, right? Stablecoins are growing. Everybody wants a part of this pie. People are bullish on stablecoins. Obviously, we had the Circle IPO I think it was about a couple months ago. Huge IPO. Ripple's got a stablecoin now. Tether's absolutely booming. Is there a world where Pay launches a stablecoin? I think we talked about this previously, but talk to us about the privacy aspect. Why is this so important to you guys from an ethos perspective? But really also, why is this so important from like a end consumer perspective? Like, why do I, as a user who has been used to having privacy in payments, why do I expect that when it comes to blockchain? Why did you guys prioritize us? Talk to us about kind of like the thought process around that entire objective.
Yeah, totally. So answer your first question, is Pay going to launch a stablecoin? I don't know. So far, USDC has been like a great partner. Like Circle is a partner of ours. We're in one of their like kind of like programs, like accelerator programs or whatever. And like I've met some great people there. I met Jeremy like 2 weeks ago. Like I was talking to him about what we're doing. I met Cash, their chief product officer as well. Like they're super hyped. And what I will say is the way we think about it is like stable coins are one part of the infrastructure of like what we want to build, right? Which is an on-chain bank. And stable coins like form a pillar of like the saving aspect of a bank, saving safely, saving in a stable, secure way.
Yeah.
If there's some features that we want in the future out of that stability or like out of the stable coin that don't exist today, we might do it, right? But so far, like we've seen that like existing stables are actually pretty good, doing pretty well. And one of the key aspects is being able to on and off ramp with high liquidity and low fees. And USDC is definitely up there in terms of
everything that you need.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's top. I think like Tether obviously has a much bigger market cap, but like I think in terms of liquidity from legitimate on and off ramping providers, and especially in the US, USDC Circle is like king there.
Yeah. Well, then this is where the magical ZK comes in, because USDC, as we know it, is an ERC20 token. Yeah. It is fully transparent, auditable, trackable, freezable, even on-chain, which is by design, of the openness of these, of blockchain systems. But you guys are pushing this to another level by actually having privacy. So, let's talk about the why first, and then let's get into the how. So why pay private payments? Why is it so important for adoption of payments as a use case for crypto and for blockchain? Then how, do you actually make this happen?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's kind of funny that we have to talk about this. And the reason why is like, dude, am I crazy that like all of these cards are launching, all of these like on-chain banks or savings accounts are launching. Gnosis Safe has been around for a long time trying to be that on-chain bank account. Like, am I fucking crazy? Because all of this stuff is public.
Yeah, I know. It's
like,
nuts.
And it's not just public, it's public forever.
Like even
forever.
Like an early stage project just texted us yesterday and was like, yo, does the Rollup have like a multi-sig? And they were like, do you mind sharing the address? And I just thought that whole like conversation, they're probably gonna like be like, oh, thanks for all the help that you've done in the past. Here's some tokens. But even just like the mind fuck of like, oh, like now they know what we hold, when we get paid. Like it's just such a weird conundrum of like thought process that you're just not used to that in traditional banking or whatever.
It's absolutely insane. And to be honest, like you've been reading all the news, same as me, like all these institutions supposedly coming on chain and doing payments on chain. Obviously, like Ripple is like, they do press releases pretty much every 2 hours on like someone new, like using them and like all this stuff. And I'm like, do these banks or institutions know that like all of those funds, all of those payments are like traceable? I was at the Robinhood event in Cannes at the launch, right? And they launched the Robinhood chain. Vlad was launching like perps and Robinhood chain, all this stuff. And then I was like, wait, do they understand that when they launched the Robinhood chain and they put user funds or tokens or whatever on that chain, now everybody in the world knows how much Robinhood customers have, how much they're buying and selling, what they're holding. And I'm sure maybe they have a solution around this, but they're building on the Arbitrum stack. Arbitrum doesn't have any semblance of privacy. It's just like kind of raw EVM type of environment. Like, yeah, it doesn't make sense to me one bit.
Yeah.
So do you think like there are use cases in which like, to me, we know the stories of Robinhood freezing, and halting pairs and, kind of selling payment for order flow and like that making up a significant part of their business. And now with that being on chain, is that now just a free market, that financial order flow information is open for all? And so maybe like stable coins, it makes total sense to be private, but some on-chain financial activity makes more sense to be public? Like, is there kind of a use case specific way to think about this? Or if not, like, why do you expect every app to basically eventually go into this more private direction?
That's a good question. I mean, let's think about the TradFi market and like what things are public and what things are private, right? Pretty much everything's private. There are some useful parts of like public disclosures. Like, for example, we would love it if the government budget and spending was somehow like auditable and transparent by the regular person, right? By a citizen of the United States. That would be pretty cool. The cool thing is like what we're building is not pure absolute privacy, right? This is not this is not Monero, this is not Zcash, this is not Tornado Cash. This is the fact that the data exists for each payment via like a UTXO note. That data is just stored on the client side. So today on like your iPhone when you're making a payment. Now, everyone has the ability to selectively disclose things about their data. So they can disclose all the data, right? Like we could build a wallet on Pay Network that was fully public. You can do that. You would just publish all the UTXO data and now people can see all the payments. We could, and this is like in our docs and our white paper as well, we can build ZK proofs on top of that data. So pretty much anything that you would want to prove about that data, balances, times, lineage, like whatever you want, you can run a proof on that. And now you can publish a proof. And now you have cryptographic proof. So what example would that be in this like government spending use case? It would be like X amount of budget was sent to this wallet. And that wallet belongs to, I don't know,
some agency or some
Social Security Administration or like whatever. Exactly. And then you could actually continue tracing that. So you could prove that like this government contractor got these funds and it came from, you could like run proofs on that. Like that's doable today. And so, yeah, that's kind of what, like, I think about like selective privacy disclosure it's optional.
Yeah, that makes a lot. And so what you're saying is that there are use cases where, look, we don't, if it's a government and we're looking at a government payment system, we may not want that to be entirely private. We may want some insight into how that money's flowing amongst the government. But I think to your point, and the way consumers behave and are accustomed to behaving with their banking info and their payments, we just take privacy as the standard, and that's the way it should be. And so I'd imagine that a lot of stablecoin standards, a lot more payments providers that are happening on chain are going to go and follow suit because this is the consumer behavior that they've come to expect.
Yeah, and look, I mean, if we're going to expand outside like the few people that really use crypto like in their daily lives, it's just not going to work because like everyone's already up in arms about online data privacy, right? And this is just like some cookies and some email tracking and like maybe some like social media posts. Like it sucks that everyone's tracking this, but like imagine if people were tracking your paycheck, where you were spending money and who you were spending money to, right? That's like 10x, maybe 100x worse. And I know for a fact that there's companies already correlating blockchain transactions, so like EVM addresses, for example, or Solana addresses, to IP addresses. That's actually pretty trivial if you think about how wallets work. Your wallet knows your address. Your wallet has analytics tools inside of it. No matter what wallet you use, like it's going to have some analytics tools running inside of it. And it knows your IP address because it's running off your phone or your laptop. Like you would have to be really like, it's not surprising if people are selling that data. Like this is just what happens. So like, yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
Sid, I got a question about like kind of how the point of sale works. When you actually go to use the pay card, are you spending stable coins in the pay app that you have, or like the cash in the pay app that you have, and then it's like being sold and then processed by Visa into the payment for the coffee? How does it work when you actually have USDC on the pay app? Yeah,
so this is also something unique that we do, and it took us like a very long time to to build this, which is every tap, swipe, insert of a chip that you do with Pay Card or Apple Pay using Pay Card actually does an authorization call from Visa's network to Pay network in real time. Now, if you're like a deep credit card like infra nerd, you know that you have about like 3 seconds to respond to that authorization call. This is just like how Visa network works. They just give you 3, because you want the UX on the user side to be good. Yeah, you don't want to tap and stand there for 10 seconds. User is good to purchase it. If they don't have enough funds, we'll respond with a decline. Most other crypto cards just basically hold a balance like on the side. That's why you have to top up.
Yes.
If you've ever noticed like other cards, you have to like top up from your wallet into like another thing. And it basically just uses that as like collateral, and then it settles later because it's just an easy way to do it, right?
Yeah.
But like we just, yeah, we kind of just take the hard road on everything.
What do you use? What like technology do you use? Like, do you use like Chainlink to connect Visa to Pay blockchain? Like, how do they talk to each other?
Yeah, so right now we've just built our own service, and then there's like 1 or 2 providers in between as well.
Okay.
That help with some of that settlement and Visa code processing and issuing and stuff like that. But yeah, basically like the API call comes in, and we receive it on like Pay network servers. This part is centralized. Like, here's the thing people don't realize, like all
so I
of
was kind of getting
TradFi,
that.
yeah. So all of TradFi like has to be centralized. Like anything interfacing with TradFi has to be centralized. And like, your RPC provider is centralized. Like Chainlink is, well, I don't know how many people use their decentralized, like actual decentralized oracles, but
yeah,
like it's mostly not from what I understand these days, because it's just faster and it's just better and people are fine with it. Anyways, yeah. So and then that comes into Pay network where we run multiple provers, which are just like our validator nodes, and we run all of those in-house today. There's obviously plans to decentralize that and for other people to run it, but we publish proofs publicly, which means anyone can see if we're doing something wrong.
Yeah, Sid, I was going to ask you the ZK question. So you're generating those proofs internally yourself. You're running your own provers now. What went into the decision? Was it essentially like, look, we can do this, and it's quickest and easiest for us to do it rather than outsource that? How do you think about making that transition? Because I think there are several other crypto protocols that would like some elements of privacy using ZK, and they're kind of weighing this. All right, do we run our own provers? Do we outsource? If we outsource, who do we outsource to? What's your train of thought when it comes to that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think right now we run our own provers, and the whole stack is just us, like from the wallet to the network to like the provers to like the proofs. Everything is in-house because that's the only way we could have built this experience. And to be honest, like no one else is going to be able to build this experience without like the kind of 2 years of like really hard work that we did. And so we're going to be opening up Pay network for others to build on top of. And so that's kind of the long-term vision for us, is like Pay network is the blockchain. It does private and compliant stablecoin transactions. You can have multiple different kinds of stablecoins. And it also includes basically what I call enshrined fiat ramps. And so like, unlike every other chain where like you have like tons of different fiat ramps, and if you're a wallet, you have to like go sign contracts with different fiat ramps like MoonPay, for example, or Bridge.xyz. In Pay network, those are kind of enshrined and built into the network and the protocol itself. And so you get those for free. So if you're building, let's say you want to build a business payments processing tool, or a merchant payments tool, or a POS system on top of Pay Network. You guys probably saw Tim Robinson from Blue Yard building Free Pay. So he built like a Visa terminal replacement using crypto. We were chatting actually for a little bit, and he wanted to use Pay Network, but we didn't have an SDK at that time. Like you could build that on top of Pay Network, and now you have all these fiat on and off ramps. KYC from users can be shared because we do self-sovereign KYC, so the KYC data lives on the phone. So you can actually share that between Pay accounts if you have other apps. So that's kind of the vision, and the answer is like, yeah, I mean, I think if you want to build a privacy experience that like actually works today, like, yeah, we'd love to chat. We're definitely going to be looking for design partners in the coming months, and yeah, like I think it'd be really cool.
Sid, last thing for you. Is there plans to add more features into the Pay app so I can borrow against my cash or my crypto and then use that money to spend, or I can earn yield on my stables that are on the Pay app and then use that money to spend? How are you going to make it better for me as a user from a financial perspective to want to use Pay app and basically have features that traditional accounts don't allow, which is like, it's not like you're earning much in your checking account before you spend it, or it's not like you have that in credit card features. So what's the roadmap to kind of bring more yield and more opportunity for people to leverage on Pay?
Yeah, so yield is like the single like most requested feature right now. So we're working on it. I think the question always is like, what kind of yield and how are we going to implement that? What yield source are we going to use? How many intermediaries it passes through? Like, I think, yeah, it's easy. We could just slot in some yield bearing stable and like call it a day, right? But I think the way we think about it is like a little bit more nuanced than that. We think about the long term, like, how do we want to message this to the user in the app, right? Because saying yield bearing stable, like, like besides if you're in crypto, like you get that maybe, but outside of that, like you have no idea what that means. Or like if you even put the name of the yield bearing stable coin, right? That means nothing to most people. So I think, yeah, that's kind of what we're thinking about. So we can build the best, like safest, most understandable experience for people.
Got it.
Awesome. Sid,
That makes
thanks so
sense
much for
that it's
coming
the
on,
most
man.
requested. That makes sense. I feel like a lot of people want yield. But a lot of people want yield with no risk, which is not a possibility,
The Genius Act ought to make it a little bit easier if they can generate some interest on those stables, start passing it back to Pay customers.
I think in the Genius Act, they explicitly excluded yield-bearing stables.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
There are, I think, the yield-bearing stables directly, that was a carve out for the banks. And so I think there's some caveat for the banks to provide that interest on the stables. But to
the provider, like the banks will provide that interest to Circle, or Circle can hold treasuries themselves or whatever they're doing, but you can't give yield back to people, to the holders of the token. Because then it becomes like an investment contract, like maybe it's an asset situation.
Yes, and my understanding is that the banking lobby was like, this is not going through unless you stipulate that.
Yeah,
and look, I might be speculating here, but my hypothesis is that that was so important because the banks want to launch the stable coins themselves, and once they come along and they launch the stable coins, they want to be the ones to provide the yield on it, and so that may be where the yield comes from.
That's interesting. I mean, banks aren't known for sharing yield. I think we all received about 0.02% for like 20 years when like the NASDAQ was going up like, I don't know, 20-30% every year or something.
Yeah.
Cool.
When we were hanging in New York a couple months ago, you were talking about the Pay card, and you didn't really, you couldn't tell me what it was. So I'm glad that you rolled this out. and cheers, man. Congrats.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on, guys. Robbie and Andy, really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
thanks
Cheers.
for coming on. Congrats.
All right, bye.
Bye, bro. Alrighty, guys. That's Sid. Great guy. You know, he was down, almost going to quit, and restructured, repositioned, and launched Pay a couple, maybe like 2 years ago. They were in a rough spot, and he's done a lot of market research on the ground, like actually like going into different countries and like speaking to people, speaking to vendors, speaking to point of sale system providers. So yeah, I had a really good pub with him. You guys should check it out. It's on the YouTube still. But yeah, Rob, that was Sid. We got some time here to talk markets and everything else.
I think we're going to bring Preston up. I think Preston's going to come up a little bit quicker than maybe we think. So why don't we get him up here, and we can talk about Sovereign's big bet. And I'm very, very excited to hear more about it. Preston is our resident GigaBrain for the day. Preston, welcome to the show.
He is our resident GigaBrain. We're gonna get him up here in a second. For what it's worth, Preston has a lot of conversations and deep dives in the past in the Cosmos ecosystem, in the kind of modular space, etc. So he's in now. Welcome, Preston. First time on the Rollup, man. What's up, man? How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Hell yeah, man. Where are you calling from?
I'm in Nashville, Tennessee right now.
Oh, dang. Big weekend ahead, huh?
You know, I actually live here, so probably nothing too crazy. A lot of code to write this weekend, I'm afraid, but it should be good.
Mostly vibe coding.
Vibe coding? What are your favorite AI tools to help you vibe code? Try out GPT-5 yet?
I haven't played with GPT-5 yet. Probably over the weekend I'll get a little bit in. I mostly use Claude Code these days, although I also have Cursor. But I found Claude to be the best, at least lately.
I used GPT-5 yesterday to build a flyer for a party invite. It was pretty sick. It was really, really fast. That was my first time.
Great use of AI, yeah.
It was really silly. It was like I told it what to do, like exact text, and it misspelled 3 words 4 times. I had to send the same prompt 4 times to get the right text. It was really weird.
That's really funny. Early days, I guess.
All right, Preston, quick background on yourself, man. Would love to understand like who you are, where you come from, how you got into the space, some of the stuff that you're most passionate about, your general thesis on the space. Just like broadly, first time on the show, introduce yourself to our audience. I'm sure a lot of them know you kind of through mutuals, etc. But Rob and I don't. So yeah, would love to start there.
Perfect. Yeah. So yeah, I'm Preston Evans. I'm the CTO at Sovereign Labs, where I've been for the past 3.5 years or so. Before that, I was over at Amazon Web Services doing some of their crypto stuff. And before that, I was in school and doing some open source work in my spare time. So I've been kind of broadly in the crypto space for forever. I always tell people I probably heard about Bitcoin back in like, I don't know, 2013 or so, and was always like vaguely interested in it. I was still, you know, in middle school or high school at the time, so didn't do that much with it, but sort of became technical through learning about Bitcoin. And I remember watching Ethereum launch, watching the DAO hack, all that stuff. So what I'm really interested in is kind of pushing the frontiers of what's possible on chain. From the very early days, it's kind of been obvious to a lot of the cypherpunk people that if you can make everything in the world go on chain naturally, if you could fit anything you wanted on chain, then there's lots of room to make a better world. But the question has always been like, okay, but how do we actually do that? You know, Bitcoin does 7 transactions per second or something like that. You know, Ethereum's in that same ballpark, low tens of transactions per second. And so at those rates, you're just never going to bring useful things on chain, right? For beyond very core financial applications. So I've always been interested in like, how can we bring other stuff on chain and just have a less intermediated world, let people interact more directly with the people around them.
And are you consider yourself a libertarian or not really?
I would say I'm maybe more libertarian than average, but not a hardcore libertarian. I definitely think there's lots of room for government to do useful things in society. But I would also love to see like lower taxes, more freedom for individuals to choose their, you know, what they want to do, all those sorts of things. But one of the things I love about crypto is that it sort of works well regardless of your political philosophy. Like crypto is really like, it's okay in the States. It does some good things for us here in the States, but where it really matters is like if you don't have a functional government. And so, you know, if you're in Tanzania or Uganda or any of these countries where on any given day, like anything about your built environment could change. The legal system may work great for a while or may fall completely apart depending on what happened in all sorts of places, you know, close by or far away. So anyway, I'm excited about being able to just like, you can build a system that just works and then anybody can opt into it. And that's really, really powerful, where right now you can't really opt into a different government.
This is the network state model.
A little bit. Yeah. I think those ideas have been floating around in the ether for a long time. You know, 𝘗𝘓𝘃 may be a little bit more like he wants to build a real physical state as well, or at least like an agglomeration of people. I think thinking of this as a state is maybe the wrong model for what I think crypto's most exciting promise is, right? We don't need to have everybody in the world be totally subordinate to crypto. It's just like WhatsApp, you know, like you wouldn't say WhatsApp is a state. WhatsApp is just a useful tool, but like anybody can use it. It kind of just works. And it works great even in, you know, all these countries where you have very limited bandwidth, you don't have super great infrastructure. Crypto will be the same thing for sort of legal infrastructure, for financial rails, for some forms of contracts, and then for some forms of trust as well. If you can move some identity primitives on chain, there's a lot of room to sort of make it easier to interact with somebody that you don't know well without having the backstop of a totally trustworthy legal system like we mostly have here in the States.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I follow this guy on YouTube. He's like Nomadic Capital. He has this saying where it's like, go where you're treated best. And I think that like, obviously you can't just like escape your government or escape your country that easily, but I don't know, there is something to be said about existing in places where you're treated better and things are better than in others. But obviously this is like a kind of like a first world privilege more than anything, I suppose. But I just think that, yeah, I mean, I think Rob and I are with you on the ability for this kind of online internet currency, let's call it, or money, and all the properties that comes with it, being able to kind of give you more freedom and allow you to opt out or opt in. And so, you know, these types of things are important, and I think are often understated in the speculative, technology-driven kind of cycles, if you will. Speaking of which, Preston, I know that you guys just announced some of the sovereign stack, and we'll get into that. But my question for you today is, if you were to build an app right now in crypto, where would you launch it, or how would you build it? Would you launch it on Solana? Would you launch it on Base, Ethereum mainnet? Would you launch your own chain? Would you do a special chain? How would you launch an application in crypto today? Where would you build?
Well, boy, that's a tough question, because really my whole thought is that you shouldn't care where you launch. Like, your users won't care. Crypto native people sort of do care today, but that's like an artifact of this weird sort of jank of history where we have this like really hardcore group of true believers who have been in crypto for like 7 to 10 years and really feel strongly that like Ethereum has the best values, or Solana is the most pragmatic and will ship the fastest. But like normies don't care at all. They have no clue what Base or Solana is. And so we want to get to a world where it's like, you know, okay, I couldn't tell you if WhatsApp runs on Laravel or if it runs on Next.js. I have no clue. I don't care. If I go work there, I'll care for a while, but like, that's just not something that users should care about. If users don't care, then we shouldn't care. It should just be a means to an end. So that's the future I'm excited about. That's actually sort of one of the core goals of Sovereign SDK, is to let you deploy wherever you want and just, you know, don't think about your backend. Your backend's just going to work, and then build a feature that your users want. All that being said, I think there's some obvious winners in the last couple of years. Solana has been very pragmatic, and that's really paid off in terms of, you know, really the core problem in crypto to date has been there's not enough throughput. And so apps get popular and then they drive away all their users because fees go crazy or you can't land transactions. And Solana has done the best job so far of navigating those dynamics. So if I couldn't use the Sovereign SDK, I would probably look at Solana first. But depending on the app, there's really valid trade-offs. There's great reasons to be on Ethereum. There's great reasons to be on Base. There's lots of good chains out there, but hopefully chains become a lot less important over time.
maybe it's worthwhile unpacking the sovereign stack for us. Like, what are some of the components to it? Why did you build it in the way that you did? Generally, what's kind of the elevator pitch for the sovereign stack?
Yeah. So the goal of Sovereign SDK is to do two things. Number one is to give builders enough scale that they can have their app actually work. So I vividly remember like watching CryptoKitties back in the day, and it got really popular by crypto standards, meaning it was doing like, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 transactions every second. And everything just exploded, right? The whole thing didn't work at all. And so then as an app developer, it's like, well, why the heck would I ever try to use crypto? If my app gets even moderately popular, then it's going to blow up and it's going to go down and I lose all my profits and it just doesn't work, right? So scale has been the single thing that holds back crypto the most so far. So at Sovereign, we want to fix that, right? We want to give you enough scale that like you can actually build a reasonable app. You can get users and you don't have to worry that you'll go down because some competitor of yours or some neighbor of yours got really popular, or that you'll go down because you got really popular. Both of those are terrible. And both of those happen all the time in crypto today. Right? There's a hot NFT drop and suddenly like you can't land a transaction anywhere. All of your users are losing money and it's a nightmare. So number one, we wanted to solve like, get you reasonable dedicated throughput so that if your app gets popular, it can survive and it doesn't get taken down randomly. Number two, we really wanted to see builders be able to focus much more on building the features that their users really want. And on an existing L1, that's just really hard, right? So like think of, the most basic stuff in crypto, like there's been hacks for the last 10 years, like clockwork every 6 months to a year, big high profile hacks. And a ton of that comes down to the fact that we just don't have very solid basic security infrastructure, right? Like account abstraction is in its infancy. For most of history, there has been no account abstraction, which means that basically you're trusting users with like, hey, here's this USB stick that's got $1 million on it. You've got to decide like, do I keep this plugged into my computer? And then hackers can basically get at it whenever they want, or do I not keep it? And then every time I want to like send $10 to a friend, I've got to go upstairs, get it out of my safe deposit box, whatever. So basically there's just no way to experiment as a builder. You have no control over the primitives. And to be honest, like the primitives are one of the things that matters the most. And so I'd love to see a world where we ran all sorts of crazy experiments. Like, okay, maybe we do social recovery wallets. Maybe we, now we're starting to get these like MPC-based multi-sig solutions, all this fancy stuff. But it's taken years and years because nobody has control over the chain's roadmap. And so like as a developer, I can't just go in and be like, hey, I'm going to build this cool new wallet. It's going to work great. Or if it doesn't work, then like we'll shut down the company. We'll try again another year, right? So Sovereign is really built to give you control, where you can run all these experiments. You're not locked into some existing chain. You can control anything you want about the chain. And hopefully that means that you can build much more differentiated user experiences. You can, get rid of the 2-click, like we're all driven nuts by the 2-click process to do anything on chain. You've got to approve first and then transfer.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Nobody would live with 2 clicks in the Web2 world, but we're stuck with it because that's part of the chain. Sorry, I think you're muted, Andy, or maybe my headphones died.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. I think I'm firing now. Preston, could you talk to us like a bit more of like some of the tech, like the actual tech choices that you guys made on execution, on like transaction logic, on sequencing, on just like I saw this bullet list of these things that you guys really prioritize, and I'd just like to go through it and understand it just a bit better.
Sure. Yeah, I'm more than happy to. So what we've done is we built a whole new stack completely from the ground up. We basically don't reuse any code from any of their blockchains. That's not strictly true. There's some components that like we have a whole Ethereum stack for compatibility, so you can use your Ethereum wallet. But like Ethereum's not really a first-class citizen, and we just provide compatibility for you. So everything's tailor-made from the ground up to give you a totally reimagined experience building a blockchain. So some things that means. Number one, you can deploy your rollup on top of basically any base blockchain. So you can deploy on Celestia, you can deploy on Ethereum, you can deploy on Solana, you can deploy even on Bitcoin. Now, not all of those are fully production ready today. In fact, I think only 1 or 2 of them are, but in principle, you can do all of them, and we have proofs of concepts for many of those chains already, and more in the works. So as a builder, basically, you can go where your users are, or you can pick the chain that makes the best technical trade-offs for you and not be locked into a particular DA layer, particular whatever. And then we do the same thing with our proof system. We support RISC-0, we support SP1. We'll have support for a couple of others coming down the pipe pretty soon here. So basically, we're a super, super configurable, framework for building rollups. But then the core piece of the rollup is maybe the thing we've invested the most in. So we sort of took a step back and we said, like, what do I actually want if I'm building a blockchain? And people have said for years that the thing that's important is decentralization. We think they're wrong. We think that what you want is what decentralization gets you, which is censorship resistance and verifiability. And so we went with a rollup focused architecture because rollups let you have some of the best things about decentralization. You can get censorship resistance and you can get verifiability, but then also some of the best pieces of centralization where you can have, some weakly trusted server that sits between you and the rollup. And then you don't have to download hundreds of gigabytes of random full node data to interact with the thing. You can get real Web 2 like latencies. So what we have is basically a sequencer that can accept, a couple thousand transactions per second today. Hopefully that'll 5 to 10x in the coming months or year. And it can respond to you within 10 milliseconds, pretty much universally. So what that means is, as a developer, everything feels incredibly snappy. If you're on Ethereum, typical latencies are 6 to 10 seconds. That means you need a spinner on your home screen to wait while the transaction loads and goes through and gets processed. For us, you know exactly what happened within 10 milliseconds. That's not just your transaction was accepted. We can tell you exactly what happened with your trade on Uniswap. What was the price? What was your slippage? All of that stuff. Exactly what it was within 10 milliseconds.
But Preston, is that even that important? Because I think our reaction time is 200 milliseconds or 250, right?
Yeah.
Why is 10 milliseconds so important for you guys? Is it just from a pure latency gaming perspective of people trying to, front run and operate on chain with algorithmically programmed trading strategies basically, or kind of why are you so fixated on this speed?
Yeah, so it's a really good point. Frankly, we might make it slower in the future because, humans don't care beyond 200 milliseconds or so, like you said. On the other hand, there's lots of other components that do add latency, like the front end needs some time. So shorter is usually better. But we also care a lot about being able to bring financial markets on chain. And for those, you need super low latency because of HFT. So you've got your market maker who's sort of hey, I'm always willing to trade with anybody at at whatever the going rate is. And so he'll say hey, I'm willing to sell, $1 million worth of ETH at $3,000 today. And then if the price moves, he's still happy to trade with you, but he wants to trade at the new price. And so he needs to cancel that order quickly. And if you beat him to the punch, if the price moved and you get your order in before he did, then he loses money. So one of my friends compares it to picking up pennies in front of a bulldozer. If you're slow getting your order in, then somebody takes you for $100,000, $1 million. If you're fast, then maybe you made a couple bucks trading with some random normie who's wanting to trade their ETH or something, right? So market makers care a ton about being able to reliably get their order in before HFT does. And so for that, latency is super, super important.
Okay, so then let's use a practical example, right? Bullet is built on Sovereign Stack. They're effectively a L2 on Solana, a network extension, whatever you kind of want to call it. How is Bullet's use case, which is effectively what you're talking about right now, how is that enabled by Sovereign Stack? What do you enable for them? Why did they choose Sovereign to build what they're building?
Yeah, so there's a few core components that are super, super important. Number one is latency. As far as we know, we're the fastest chain. In fact, according to our internal benchmarks, we're actually faster than Binance in most cases. So that's a huge thing. Binance, apparently in the exchange world, crypto exchanges aren't thought of in the same category as sort of real exchanges. And so market makers actually want better performance than you can get from Binance. So we're hopeful that we can provide that. We're in the early days, so I'm sure there'll be hiccups along the way, but the architecture can get us there. And we've spent a lot of work sort of getting to the point where we can compete with Binance and all these other centralized exchanges. So that's one huge thing, latency. A second huge thing is throughput. Hyperliquid does 12,000 transactions per second, something like that. And if you're on Solana, that's 3 or 4 Solanas worth of capacity. If you're on Ethereum, that's 100 Ethereum's worth of capacity, something like that. So there was just nobody who was even in the ballpark of that. You've got these new chains, Mega ETH, Monad, that may get you somewhere close to that, but but that's, for a single app, that's just for like one exchange, and you want lots and lots of apps. So we were the only team that could give them the latency and the throughput I think that they needed. But then we really take advantage of being able to give them control. So they have a super Solana native feeling experience. We let them use Solana addresses and Solana wallets to control all the actions on the rollup. So you're not, if you're on Hyperliquid, you might feel like you're switching to a different ecosystem, right? If you're coming from Solana, then you got to get an Ethereum wallet, Ethereum addresses, learn all the EVM stuff to interact with Hype EVM or whatever. For Bullet, we can give them a super Solana native feeling experience, no new wallets, none of that stuff. And then, we also let them configure some speed bumps. So that's one of Hyperliquid's killer features, is being able to, help market makers out by slowing down HFT just a little bit. We can do that. That'd be basically impossible to do on top of Ethereum today. You just don't have that kind of control over the protocol. So, those are the main reasons, really. Like, as far as we know, we're kind of the only stack that gets out of your way and just lets you build the things that your users want, because we're not designed to be like an existing chain first. We just, okay, if somebody needs configuration on this thing, we add a configuration option. You get full control over your stack, and you can decide whatever you want.
Yeah, and that there's power in that flexibility, because then you're kind of embracing your community's creativity and opening up the world to them. And so I'm curious, like, you guys are intimately familiar with your own technology, right? You don't have all the time and the bandwidth in order to go build out all these cool apps that are enabled by your technology. If you were to kind of put a call to action out there, what do you think are some applications? Maybe they're in the machine economy, bot to bot. Maybe they're they're non-financial use cases. What do you think are some apps that are uniquely enabled by Sovereign Stack that app developers, if they're looking for some inspiration, these are some good ideas for the Sovereign Stack?
Yeah. So, I mean, the big one, the obvious one, is exchanges. We think we're the first stack that really can let you build a competitive exchange experience, but on chain. So that's a no-brainer. We're also pretty excited about a lot of like the stablecoin use cases. Right now, if you want to provide a payment provider, again, like, you're going to be super bottlenecked by throughput. If you get popular, you're in huge trouble. Sovereign gives you enough throughput and good enough latency that, like, your customers won't be waiting at the ATM while their payment is processed. There's no noticeable lags and all that stuff. So payments are another big one. And then I'm excited about, like, there's a whole category of kind of developer tooling, more boring stuff that would benefit from having an immutable record of when it happened. Think even of like tweets, right? We've all seen the, like, this tweet has been deleted screenshot of tweets. And in that case, it's really hard to know, like, is this a real tweet that the guy actually deleted, or is this a fake tweet somebody generated with ChatGPT, right? It'd be really great if putting stuff on chain was cheap enough, like, just put all your tweets on chain, and then you can prove, like, hey, actually, I never tweeted that. Here you go. Here's the log of that block. It's not in there. Or here you go. It is in that block. It's, whatever. So, thinking of blockchains just as like whatever we want a record of actually happening, put it on the chain. It's cheap now. It's almost free now. And so really get creative with it. Yeah.
Preston, if you were to build one app, what would you build? Like, what would be a passion project of yours?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm really excited about a lot of the privacy stuff that's coming down the pipe.
Okay.
So yeah, I would probably work on some privacy oriented stuff, maybe financial, but also maybe non-financial, like some of the more identification stuff. It's kind of a hot topic right now with, like, all of the, the UK has their new online privacy or online, like, security law that's, targeted at whatever, protecting kids. Having some age verification that is not every website I ever visit seeing, my full name sounds really great right now. Like, you can easily generate a ZK proof that, like, hey, I really do have a government ID that shows I'm over 18 or over 21 or whatever. And then you can use that credential rather than actually having to KYC at every website, because we've seen how that ends, right? I'm sure you guys all saw the T-app fiasco a couple of weeks ago, where, like, all of the driver's license they collected got leaked online, and now
that's pretty bad.
Your real name with, like, the random mean tweet you sent about some guy.
Rob, did you see that?
It feels like that kind of thing happens every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, there's
Rob,
like
did you see
massive
that
hack.
specific T one?
The T app.
Yeah. You've seen that, right?
I think so. What was special about that one?
It's just like this reputation system for dating for women for rating guys basically, and then they just leaked all these guys' information. And it's created by a gay guy as well. It's a super funny story, dude. It's super funny. Preston, so you mentioned trading for exchanges. Hyperliquid is a cool example of this kind of like CLOB example, right? Centralized limit order book. These have been popular on the NASDAQ, on the CME, right? I'm curious from your perspective, is there one precise way that you think is the best in terms of assessing the trade-off spectrum for building a club? Like, is there a best practice right now today with the given tools we have to build a club in order to like achieve maximum viability on the spectrum of like speed, security, decentralization effectively, or whatever the kind of trilemma is?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you want to build a club, there's a couple of like absolutely must-haves. There's no point in building a club, basically, if you're going to be slower than a couple hundred milliseconds. Like, market makers just can't make money, and so you will never get price discovery on there. And that's what we've seen over and over again with all these exchanges. So I think like basically don't waste your time building something that's going to be too slow or that's not going to have enough throughput to provide whatever you think your target market is. And not everybody needs thousands of TPS. You know, maybe you're trading like long tail, you know, NFTs or altcoins or whatever, and you only need a few, you know, tens or hundreds of transactions per second. But you've got to look at what's the maximum latency we can accept, what's the minimum throughput we can accept. Beyond that, you obviously want more battle tested. And to be honest, like this is where Sovereign SDK, you know, is going to come out worse in the rankings. We're brand new. We've got our first people going to production in a couple of weeks here. And so like, you know, I want to be honest, we think we've done everything we can to make it solid. We've got audits, all those sorts of things. But like, okay, as a builder, you've got to be really pragmatic about the risks you're taking as well. So, you know, I would look seriously at Sovereign SDK for sure, because we give you throughput, we give you the latency you need. But if you don't think you need those things, if you think you can get away with Solana or Aptos or one of these high throughput chains, you know, definitely think about it. What I would say though is that Sovereign SDK should be way cheaper, way faster, way more secure than building your own thing, unless you are like an incredibly well-funded, deeply technical team. Like maybe if you've got 3 years and an army of PhDs, it's worth building your own chain. But in the vast majority of cases, we can give you 90% of what you could get from that, but in a much more battle tested, you know, a stack that already exists and, you know, is a little more tested and proven.
So, okay.
Preston,
so then with that thought, then, yeah, just one last follow up, Rob. Do you think Solana's value prop is being like cannibalized by something like Hyperliquid, or just these or like a mega ETH that can just like, that is much more optimized for clubs in the current state? Like if Solana can only do like 2 or 3K TPS right now, obviously it's climbing. It looks strong, like it's, you know, up and to the right. But, you know, you need a certain amount of throughput for these exchanges to actually work. Like how do you see like Solana and like the Hyperliquid kind of like battle play out? Like, you know, maybe Bullet, you know, helps Solana's value prop here kind of in the same way that L2s help Ethereum. Like, how do you see Solana's role in this kind of like high throughput club, like 10, 20, 50K TPS world that it seems like we're rapidly getting to?
Yeah, I mean, to start off, like Solana is an incredibly impressive chain. Anatoly is a great founder, Anatoly and Raj. So like never fade Solana. I don't think I would count Solana out, probably ever. That being said, they have a much, much harder task ahead of them if they want to compete in this world than Hyperliquid does, where Hyperliquid got a chance to design from scratch, knowing exactly what they wanted to go after and learning from all the mistakes that Ethereum and Solana and all the others made along the way. Where Solana has been deployed for years, they've got all of these other applications that they really can't break, right? You can't break Jupiter. You don't want to break all, you know, pumped up fun, all of these other things that are going on chain. And so you can't make as aggressive, you know, decisions around hard forking all those things as Hyperliquid can. Hyperliquid is fairly centralized. It sounds like they control a quorum of validators that they can upgrade whenever they want. And that isn't enough on its own to hard fork the chain. And so if they want to ship a feature, they can do so very, very aggressively. Solana doesn't have that advantage. What Solana does have is really good developer mindshare, and then like an incredible killer team of engineers working on the protocol. So, you know, I wouldn't count Solana out by any means, but I think Solana in a straight head-to-head versus Hyperliquid for exchange use cases is going to have a hard time. If they manage to pull that off, that'll be like an incredible win and a testament to how strong they are. But Hyperliquid definitely has it easier.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so then, yeah, Robin, I know that you have a question, but I guess like the decision becomes like, it is building the end game 𝘗𝘓 like the most valuable thing to do on blockchain infrastructure today? Like, is that what's going to generate the most fees, the most revenue, the best tool and product to rival that of a centralized exchange or like NASDAQ? And like, if the answer is yes, then it would seem like a lot of these kind of high throughput L1s would want to be restructuring their kind of agenda towards and kind of roadmap towards achieving that outcome. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
I'll just kind of build on that, because my question was somewhat similar. Like, why do we need more than one 𝘗𝘓? What is there such a thing as an end game 𝘗𝘓 where all the liquidity coalesces? If 𝘗𝘓s are the killer exchanges or the killer use case of sovereign, like, why is it important that we have some diverse ecosystem of exchanges rather than just one killer?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a handful of reasons you might want that. So one thing you can do is like look at traditional financial markets. And we've got like NASDAQ, we've got NYSE, and then we've also got like, other products. There's the, futures exchange in Chicago. And then like, Forex happens in a different spot. You've got markets in London, you've got markets in Singapore or in, Hong Kong, whatever. So we see that like different geographies want different kinds of markets, different regulatory environments, different kinds of products need different kinds of things. And it's very, very hard for one team to specialize in all of those things at once. And so we just, in practice, have never seen one team totally run away with all financial exchange. In particular, in crypto, we talk to teams all the time who are building exchanges, and there's a million different kinds of things. So there's perps, there's spot exchanges, but then there's like much more niche, like, okay, I only want to exchange stablecoins with other stablecoins. That probably has some architectural differences that you want to do. Then there's like, real world assets. There's sort of like all the NFTs, all the not strictly financial assets, but that you may still want to provide liquidity for. So there's this massive range of different designs to be explored. And, maybe we'll get some big winners down the road in a lot of these categories. But right now, like, most of them are wide open. There's not even a single big player in most categories that people care about, I think.
Got it. Makes total sense. I mean, there's going to be different winners for different categories, different regional markets, different asset classes. And then we're going to connect all of these with the various infrastructure, plumbing, bridges, tunnels, technologies to bridge all this liquidity together and get really good price discovery, probably, hopefully, better than traditional financial price discovery. Preston, thanks so much for coming on.
I'm not done yet. I don't know if Preston, if you have some more time, I just have some more thoughts here.
Yeah, sure. Fire away.
Okay, so when you've been building out the stack, what is it that the builders have valued the most about Sovereign Stack, or like what are their main needs? Let's use Bullet with Tristan as an example, and then like what is something that you built out, on the contrary, that you thought that these teams would really need and want, but you're not yet seeing the demand for that specific service or part of the stack quite yet. That's kind of like throwing you off guard a bit.
Yeah, sure. So I think the big thing that people have really said they like about the stack so far is actually how easy it is to build. If you want to build an exchange on Solana, you've got to deal with all these contract size limits, all these transaction size limits that are very, very painful to work around. And so you can't just naturally express your business logic. With Sovereign SDK, we hope to be like an order of magnitude better on that. We can get rid of all the size limits and just make it much more natural. It feels a lot more like you're writing like, I don't know, just regular old code, but verifiable. Yeah. So that's a big one that people have liked a lot so far. Obviously, latency is another huge one. That honestly wasn't a focus of ours in the very early days. We were building base rollups way back in the day that had sort of 6-second block times. And that was like, there was incredibly strong customer demand for lower latency. So we really pushed on that. On the other side, some stuff that we built, there's been a lot of things that we've built over the years that hasn't made it to market or isn't fully ready yet. So one big one, we thought we would need more block exploring infrastructure. It turns out a lot of people don't want that much from their block explorer. Like they're building an app chain, and so their front end is kind of in place with the Block Explorer, and they may have like some sort of primitive thing, but typically there's not a lot of demand for like Etherscan style Block Explorers. Another big one is sort of fully proof-based bridging. We thought that was going to be a huge value add for customers, and for the most part, they aren't too concerned about operating a more trusted Hyperlane style bridge for now. So we'll see if that changes. That could pick up pretty soon here, but yeah, so far there hasn't really been a lot of demand for that.
And
of innovation, just real quick, like when it comes to multi-chain and app chains, like you guys are pushing boundaries. Yeah, maybe it's a little bit more trusted of a bridge setup, but you have 10 millisecond latency. Like there are things that you guys are pushing the boundaries of, and maybe there's compromises, but ultimately there's a particular design space that you guys have embraced, and there's a lot of opportunity there because we haven't seen projects and infrastructure quite at this limit.
Yeah, that's what we hope. We hope it's working.
Preston, what is the business model of Sovrn? How are you guys going to be able to make money and to fit in this revenue meta, bro? Because if you're not making revenue, you're not going to make it. That's what they're saying these days. I don't know if I buy it, but what's the sustainability path for you guys here?
Yeah, we completely agree with that. Actually, we think if you don't have revenue, you're not going to make it. The 2017 meta of like tokens with no revenue having a huge premium is long gone and should be. So we haven't thought about launching a token because we don't have a coherent story around how it would actually accrue long-term cash flows from our business. But if we get to the point where we think that makes sense, we might consider it, right? So the business model is just a revenue share. We've got some components that are not proprietary, but we have some components like the very low latency sequencer. If you want to use those components and you use them to build a killer app, then we take a revenue share off of that app. It's totally permissionless. You can deploy without talking to us. And then there's just a fee switch built in that we can toggle if so you sort of agree with that in the license, but you're free to deploy and we won't take anything on day one.
Got it.
Just had a 5-jet
flyover.
It was almost like I was at the Super Bowl here. It's pretty insane. Preston, do you imagine that the revenue that you'll be able to get from teams like Bullet and others to be significant enough to even out costs, eventually be profitable, then kind of turn that into thoughts around token, or how are you guys thinking about the early stage that you're at now into profitability and then into community ownership? What does that look like in your mind for Sovrn?
Yeah. So yeah, if Bullet were to do well, that would absolutely be enough to make us profitable. That's one great thing about our model is we're very incentive aligned with our customers. We really want to make sure you're successful, which is not the case for necessarily all of the other Rollup frameworks that charge kind of a flat fee or whatever. So yeah, that's absolutely would be enough to make us profitable. And to be honest, we haven't thought too much about since we don't have a token, how we would incorporate one or anything like that. There are interesting questions about okay, if this becomes successful and there's broader interest in the software, how do we sort of transition ownership more into the community and out of the hands of the company to make sure that it sticks around well beyond our company lifetime. But for now, we're kind of in the early days and enjoying that fact we get to run as a regular business and just try to focus on helping customers make a great product. So
yes.
So we'll see, I guess.
Yes, brother. Thank you for your time, Preston. I appreciate you, man. Rob, you got anything else?
I think we're good. I mean, that was great stuff. I'm very excited to see the ecosystem flourish on Sovrn. Best of luck, guys.
And congrats on the announcement. I know it's been a lot of time shipping with no hype, so it's bullish.
Thanks a ton. Yeah, it's been a grind. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me on. I hope to be back sometime soon.
Yeah, nice to meet you, man. We'll catch up in a couple months to see where you guys are at.
Sounds great.
All right, buddy. Speak
Thanks,
soon.
Preston.
Cheers, man. Alrighty, dude, that was insane. I mean, Nick, there was literally 5 jets. I saw them in the horizon. So if you're just tuning in, I'm in Hawaii. It's obviously Air Force military bases and stuff. And so I see these jets out here, and they're coming, and boom, whoa! They must have only been 100 yards, higher than my building. Like it was insane.
So you saw them, and then you heard them. You got the sonic boom.
Oh yeah, full sonic boom. My roommate ran into the back. I was just sitting here like taking it all in. Anyway, Preston was great.
That's what's about to happen in the market, about a sonic boom.
Yeah, let's talk markets, man. All right, so let's do a quick price checkup. ETH 40.47, BTC 116.6, Sol 177. I think the prominent thing here is the ETH outperformance of Bitcoin. That the ETH BTC numbers look pretty good. So look, man, there's a lot of ideas being passed around as to like how this goes, what happens here, but we're very clearly in like the meat of the bull market, right? In the sense that ETH's starting to outperform. Why? Well, these treasury companies just keep buying. I put out a tweet the other day. There's 13 treasury company. There's 13 assets which have treasury companies in crypto today. So that's happening. So, I think a lot of this buying is just happening from the treasury companies. They keep their NAV higher than they have a premium on their NAV. They're then able to then recycle that for issue more common shares to buy more crypto. So that's kind of happening on ETH. Hasn't really trickled down yet into some of the other kind of tokens, but I think that's probably what's coming next. Man, I mean, definitely full 180 on ETH sentiment. You just think like three months ago, ETH was around 1,500, 1,800, plummeting down. It was really bad sentiment. And it changed quickly, very quickly, like scary quickly. So yeah, that's the state of things. I don't really have much like analysis necessarily, other than I just feel like a lot of people are probably pretty long ETH and I still think a lot of people are stuck in alts waiting for alt performance, but it just has not happened yet. I think maybe rate cuts is a trigger there, but
if the institutional wave is real, then ETH is the alt. But if you're on crypto Twitter all day and you're too zoomed in, you might be in coins in like the 200 to 500 market cap range, and that's what you're getting. But we haven't seen, and maybe that's the last step, right? You go back to Secrets of Crypto, the fourth part out of 4 is when all of these other like altcoins start to outperform ETH and Bitcoin, and you get that micro cap boost far and beyond, the majors.
I saw 𝘠𝘠𝘺𝘚 put out a tweet saying like they really taught everybody about cycles and then super cycled it.
But what would
how do you feel about that?
I mean, what he's saying this is a super cycle, but what does that really even mean? Because I mean, maybe that's the case if Bitcoin it's the year after the halving, and every year after the halving, you hit an all-time high, right? And like we're still around all-time high. So it feels like this is just the regular part of the cycle. It's about what comes next to think that it could be the super cycle or not would have to mean that, 2 years after the halving, when it's typically a bull market, if you're paying credit to the 4-year cycle thesis, a year from now, we're going to be even higher. And that would mean that it's a super cycle. But to call it a super cycle now seems too early, right? Because we're at year 4 out of 4 on the cycles.
Yeah, I just mean that I think like the institutional adoption maybe is where that kind of thought comes from. Look, man, as long as these DATs keep raising capital and are able to keep issuing shares and keep their entire kind of situation rolling, I don't see a reason for this to slow down. I think like the key metric that's going to be to watch this period is going to be like, when does the premium to the NAV of Sharplink Gaming, of MicroStrategy, of BitMine, of these larger of MetaPlanet, when do these if these start to compress, you're not going to get forced selling because they don't need to sell. Now, maybe if it goes way under premium as a discount, then they could sell some of their crypto to buy some of their common share to like kind of arb it back. So that could be a reality. But like, I think what's more likely is that they stop buying and that retail is chasing, but doesn't have enough oomph to really push it higher. And so you're just going to get this natural kind of like chop or downward movement, you know, as these DATCOs, you know, lose their premium. So from my view, it's like like watching the premiums wherever, I think Blockworks has a decent dashboard on this, wherever you can watch the premiums for these larger DATCOs, I think is going to be the biggest signal for the market. Cause like the ETFs are just following it. Like the ETFs are just like kind of like following, like the ETFs are just pure retail.
They're also spot ETFs, whereas the DATs are leveraged. And what brings down
they're
a
not
cycle every
leveraged
time
necessarily. They're not leveraged in the sense that you think of leverage.
I mean, maybe I'm just taking strategy, right? And not all of them are like that. But strategy raises capital based on the Bitcoin that they buy, and then they use
it's more like exactly. But it's more just like as long as there's a premium, they can raise more cap. They can sell more common shares.
Yeah.
Or issue more common shares to buy more Bitcoin effectively, or whatever it is, right? So yeah, they're different. But my point is that ETFs aren't driving the flows that hard. Like, you know, you'll get like a $300 million inflow day on ETH. 2 weeks in a row, we had a pretty insane inflow. So maybe that drove it a bit, but it's really these DATCOs just like absolutely throwing capital into it. So I think like DATCOs first, follow the treasury or the NAV and the premium to the net asset value holdings of the crypto. As that compresses, you'll see the ETFs kind of follow and retail kind of pile in, and we'll see how we're able to kind of like keep the price stable at higher levels. So I don't know if we get like a full parabola, but we'll see.
I'm with you on price to NAV being an indicator of how overheated the market is. And as a result of this, I mean, we've been talking about, you know, about like the market conditions and the right way to play this. And, you know, there's been some interesting commentary on this as far as like sizing, kind of like the right equilibrium to play this in the current late stages, if you see it that way, the late stages of the bull market. And so, you know, there's some very, also with the maturation of the market, there's some really interesting plays out there to kind of get creative if you want to take some more concentrated bets. So I had some notes, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, our producer's sitting here listening to us, wondering why he didn't full net worth for his family into Bitcoin at 70K when we told him 6 months ago. But you know, I think he's gonna be a bit upset at 200K. So hopefully he doesn't buy the top. We'll have to make sure that our lad Marcelo here is being financially careful.
I'd like to hear from Marcelo what he has to say about the current market conditions.
Yeah, can we get a producer call in here, please? There we go. So next show we'll have the producer call-ins. We're gonna start. It'd be cool to get a call-in feature. Call a number, boom, and somebody can and route it in. Why
don't we sidestep the market conversation just real
Rob,
quick? We're gonna come back to. I do, but we're gonna come back to that. And this is kind of circling back to the opening monologue, but we have some very exciting things coming up. And we're not going to share too much about those things right now, but we're going to be launching things over the next couple of weeks. There's going to be functionality. There's going to be an increase in output. And this is just a little bit of an Easter egg for anyone who's watching this live. Probably won't clip this, but you know, if you're a real one, you know, we're an hour and a half into the show and you're sitting, listening to us chop it up. We have some really, really exciting things coming up. And we're going to be rolling those out over the next couple of weeks. So producer call-in is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to some of that. We'll be testing some of these things over the next couple of weeks, and I'm particularly excited. Back to the market things. What I was getting to is that, you know, when it comes to some of these more concentrated bets, you know, if we want to kind of participate in the strategy that we've been talking about, and we get more creative with how we're going to get exposure. There's different ways to do that. I saw like 3 or 4 days ago, before we started the most recent rise, volatility was at like a very local low. And so one way to get exposure in a non-typical way and just, hold spot like a pleb would be to long volatility through something like the 𝘵𝑉 from Volmex, which I think is a tradable token. Other things that include
you go long volatility, man. Go ahead. You go do that. I'm going to go for a surf.
Options, shorts. Like Andy, what's your take on short? When it comes to
go short, yeah. I'm gonna go surf. You short. Let me know short ETH. Let me know how that plays out for you.
Are you in the business of calling tops? What's your strategy here?
I'm bullish, man. Look, I don't really see no. Is there any more market thoughts that you had written down? Because like if that was it, we're screwed.
Oh, you got twisted a little bit there.
If that was all you got, I don't know how we're gonna survive.
Yeah, I've got more market thoughts. I thought you were supposed to go find a girlfriend last night, but all you did was spam my phone with market commentary, so nothing else is new.
Dude, I went to a singles event last night. It was grimy.
Let's get some market commentary from our producer, Marcelo.
Yeah, so we're gonna bring our producer Marcelo up while we're waiting for our next guest, and we're just gonna have a conversation about crypto. Marcelo's on air. Marcelo, you've been helping us with the show for a while. Welcome in. Just a quick intro, man. Tell us about what you've been doing, and let's have a open conversation about crypto investing.
Sure. Well, Marcelo here. I'm one of the founders of Stributo. We started helping companies like you and people like you to go live with higher quality than traditional video conferences. This other software that people use that will be fine to create content. But ideally, this is a really high quality broadcast live production that we're running here for, a few months now. And helping you guys to really look like CNN without CNN. Yeah.
And
there you go.
Marcel, you've had a little bit of experience in crypto. You kind of meandered your way through, hearing about things, maybe even working with a couple maybe not like closely working with crypto projects, but kind of, helping some other teams out like us.
Yeah.
Like what, when it comes to buying, what is your, what do you have kind of like something that when you're approaching the market, when you're approaching Bitcoin and some of these other coins, like, are you just like crypto? That's a bunch of like BS. I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole, or like Bitcoin's okay. What is your reaction, when it comes to putting some stake in the game?
I think it matters about, the project and what it's meant to be. One of the things that I believe though, is that it should be easier for people to understand. And that's one of the main issues that I think crypto projects have. Nobody understands what they do, and they have to be, if you have to explain a lot what you do, then it's complicated for your investors or people that will actually trust in the project. I am not an average user. I've been around since 2014 in this market and looking at things and how projects go back and forth. But yeah, I believe when things are simple to understand, then you will go and do and face it, right? I also think like in America, right, where we are, it's hard to predict these type of things. There's like, we are so used to, markets being nice and smooth with like NASDAQ and the regular markets. And when you go to the crypto world, you know that there are waves of things happening, and things go super high, and then everything goes down. And then you see Bitcoin crashes, and then everything else crashes after that. It's kind of like very weird. But outside of the US, I think there's a lot of projects and economies that needs really this technology to survive. And that's kind of like where things are at. I've seen the world getting much more aware of that. And of course, the US right now, I think it's moving towards being that superpower of, hey, let's do this properly, because there's a future there. So I think that the projects, like you said, Rob, are coming in, getting better, getting more clear. I think that there's maybe a service right there, right? To just help people explain what they're doing and why these things will benefit somebody. And, that's a core feature for me. When I see that, then I may trust that. No financial advice, right?
Yeah,
no
of course.
financial advice.
But
and
for your children,
there you go.
I think your children. I believe that you have like some young children. I think
I do.
In 10 years they will be much more acclimated to this type of thing. Things like ChatGPT, things like crypto, than like even us, Robbie and myself, and then of course you and your generation are. And so I think that like over time this is just going to become more and more like embedded into the world. And
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know if like how you think about that, but I just feel like it's a time thing. And like, as you get more aware of it, as it gets bigger, it becomes less risky, especially Bitcoin just itself.
Yeah, for sure. And kids, if you think about that, I have 14, 12, and 11-year-old boys, right? Just think about that. Take that off. And you're like, okay, so 2014, they were born there. Wow, right? Like just when Bitcoin got released, you know what I mean? I mean, not just then, but you get the idea. So 2014 is like 10 years in the making. And these guys are like very used to AI. Like they don't care. It's all good. It's part of their world, right? And Apple devices, iPads, these like things that you just grab and they just play with them, and you can see them. They're super. Like my son the other day, he saw me doing this with you guys, cutting cameras and stuff, and he says, "Hey, can I do it?" Like he was gonna come and do it. He's 14. Right? And I'm like, yeah, not ready yet, but we will. But my point is, it's getting there. But I think there's a lot going on there. Kids are consuming a lot of content. That's something that I'm worried about as well, right? We need to get more tools to filter that stuff. I know I'm not going out of subject here, but thinking about kids growing and the influence that they can get by watching things and stuff like that. I saw that YouTube made a new filter with AI to detect if you're a teenager. I don't know how they've done it or how that works, but if it's in terms of really detecting somebody that is, children, that they want to filter content, because if you think about it, YouTube has its own ways. It's very cool for many things, but for others, not that great. So yeah, that's my kids are going to be looking at these markets and things when they just become teenagers and turn 18. You can imagine what the world will look like.
And so, Marcel, when you're looking at the markets now, are you
part of their life?
Are you do you have Bitcoin? Like, are you like mostly in equities? Like, what is, just because Andy and I have been zoomed in on this market for so long, like going on 10 years at this point, right? We are more familiar with crypto markets than traditional financial markets. What is your like portfolio construction, having been kind of through both of these worlds?
Actually, I never got into the crypto space in terms of Bitcoin, for example. I always saw it from the outside in that regard. I do have other things that I'm not able to disclose, but ideally, I trusted in tokenization of assets, real estate assets. I will say that, right? It's not a boom yet, but if you see that this year right now, it's getting really hot and hotter. I think that has a lot of future. I think I told you about that. There's this real estate tokenization platform that is very cool. I'm not going to mention this right now, but we will check that out and see if we can release that info. But this is something that I saw in 2017, and I was helping to grow that back then, and it's pretty remarkable what they're doing right now. So, and that's kind of like a completely different mindset. I see, real estate investments is like a real world thing. How do we make that more democratized for anybody that needs to access to that without buying the entire property, right? And then there's a lot of things going on over there, but that's one of the things that I was looking into for the past few years. But to be honest, I'm more like a viewer of the markets than an active investor in the latest things. But I should maybe switch my strategy and say, yeah, let's go, with the roll. I mean, usually I do the, classic Nasdaq and that sort of stuff, which what everybody does, right? The index funds and stuff like that. But I'm more looking into these other new ways, and I think there's a lot of things going on, but a lot of noise as well. Like I said, it's a lot of new things every single day. It goes faster. I think just like AI, right? AI is going like super fast every single day. Everybody's like talking about it. And I think that the crypto world will be colliding there a lot too. It's exciting times,
Maybe just grab the Phantom wallet on the App Store. You got the you have your phone there?
I do.
Yeah, it's called Phantom, Phantom.
Yeah, I got it.
And,
I installed it once. So
go ahead and drop us your ETH address, your Sol address. We'll get you set up, man.
All right. Yeah.
Don't you worry. We'll get you dialed in. You can show your kids the meme coins that we send you, and they'll you can tell us what they respond, if it's good or bad, and that'll judge if we think that their performance will be good in the long term.
All right, we can do that test for sure. Yeah.
I have an idea of what I think what meme coin we're going to start out with. What I think Andy might be dropping Marcel. This is the sound that Marcelo's kids are going to make when he sees the coin.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay. That's good. All right, so I think we got the next guest getting ready. So I'm gonna go backstage again, and let's prep this.
Let's do it.
Guest.
Andy's gonna send you some fart coin. We're gonna keep this rolling.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the title. Look at that. We could talk.
I think
about
we got Shiv ready in the back, guys. Let's get him set up. Marcel, lovely to have you, brother. And we'll see you.
Thanks for coming on.
The back end. I'm running on no headphones, by the way, so I'm getting a special setup, but that should be all good. See you in a bit.
Yep. Be right back.
Yeah, interesting times. I think we can get creative. That's probably the best way to play these upcoming months here. But even whether this is a super cycle or not, it's like things are going to come and go. Liquidity cycles are going to come and go. Maybe they print a lot of money. Maybe it pumps the markets. Maybe that means that once they take liquidity out, it's going to crash. But these things aren't going anywhere. I think the companies that are building these projects now are so much more credible, experienced, and well-funded than they were last cycle.
Yeah.
And then, think about the ICOs. Think about DentaCoin and BitConnect. Those were destined to fail anyway, whether they were this cycle or last cycle. But the quality of founders back then, it was like anyone with a laptop was going to raise an ICO and just move to an island. And that was that. Now there's a lot more investor protections. And funding. I think that is one of the benefits of the VCs. You're on mute, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm running on no headphones. I'm just kind of moving and grooving. But all right, so we got Shiv coming up. Shiv is they're running Verify the Signal. We ran the Signal stream a couple weeks back. I was in Sweden. We're gonna get Shiv on. We're gonna talk about verifying the signal, what this means. Boundless launch coming very soon. Should be good. Last guest of the day. Got some more calls. I know it's a little bit later over there.
Andy, before Shiv
comes up the week strong.
Andy,
and we're going to verify the signal with Shiv. So that's what's coming up. You should be joining us shortly. And yeah, Rob.
Yo, am I here? Cool. Nice. Before Shiv comes on, you think it's fair game to talk about the succinct launch proof? Should we bring that up? Oh no. Boundless coming up very, very soon. It's also the ZK wave. So we are going to get Shiv on in just a moment. But we asked the spicy questions. We don't hold back here at the Rollup. We're bringing it face to face. We're bringing you face to face with the smartest, brightest minds in crypto and beyond. Pretty ZK heavy episode.
On. Fly.
Sovereign obviously
last
has,
one of the day. Verify the signal. Vibes are high. And
we got to get Andy a pair of headphones because this guy's just on mute left and right. Pretty ZK heavy day. Pretty stable coin and payments heavy day as well with Pay. We've got Shiv coming on in just a moment here. He's in the background. I caught up with a couple of Boundless personnel over in SBC, very technical conference, learned a lot. I learned even more about the proof marketplace and the way that these proofs are constructed and the way that incentives are spread in this marketplace amongst the producers of these proofs. Very, very cool market dynamics, a lot more decentralized than some ZK counterparts. We've got CEO Shiv of Boundless coming on in right now. Welcome, Shiv.
Thanks for having me, Rob and Andy. How are you guys doing? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Yeah, welcome on. I unfortunately missed the signal. It was very well received. I heard it was a great broadcast, and I think we're actually cooking up a highlight video. But today we're going to be talking about verifying the signal, which comes after the signal. Now it's time to verify it. And so I'm very curious, especially after, maybe not getting the full effect of the signal. What does it mean? What are we doing? What does it mean to verify the signal?
Yeah, so our campaign actually has three components. It's boost, prove, and verify. And it sort of mimics the life cycle of a proof generally. You kind of say like, hey, this is the price point at which I'm willing to pay for like proof. So this one I want to prove. Then you actually prove it. But that's just step two. Then you actually need to verify the proof, which finalizes that like, hey, the proof's done. It's now in a useful state and you can use it in your application. Part of like our mainnet beta objectives is, of course, to show Boundless, show the power of the tokenomics, show that we can handle these gigantic proofs at scale, add so many provers permissionlessly, not just talk about decentralization and permissionlessness, but actually show it in production, but also educate everybody who wants to participate, right? Part of my job description, which I wrote myself, is to educate the populace about ZK through the same journey that I went through as well. I'm a technologist. My background's in database systems. I'm fairly literate in computer science. But even to me, ZK is moon math. It's like, what do you do? Well, I don't know. I don't really understand what's going on here. It is maybe a humbling thing for the CEO of a cryptography company to admit, but it is important that that we don't get stuck in the cryptography, but also see the applications and how do you actually utilize them. And I want more and more people to understand that. That's the verify stage. Really, what we allow you to do is to verify these proofs on your browser. There's a button on bboundless.xyz that you go to on the signal page and sort of verify these proofs. The key learning for people who are doing this is to understand that it takes machines and a proven network to submit the proofs, but it's unbelievably straightforward and simple and lightweight to verify a proof. That is the power of ZK. I can do a number crunch in the background and give you this tiny proof that you can just verify and you're golden. If you verify enough, you might be lucky enough to verify a signal proof, which is of course like a proof of full Ethereum consensus. It's a gigantic proof. Takes like an hour or so to do. It's like 50 billion cycles, some enormous amount of money, enormous amount of like cycles, and you can verify it instantly. And you don't even notice that there is a difference between proving a large proof and a small proof, or a proof of a large computation or a small computation, because ZK tends to mask all of that. So really, you just want to have the retail users get a taste of that, understand that, internalize that concept, because they might be doing that in their applications soon. So yeah,
feels like a golden ticket, like an Easter egg. Like if I'm running a verifier, I happen to run like a verification for a signal proof. It's like I've discovered the entire Ethereum consensus right there in that one golden proof. Is there anything extra? Like what? I mean, it's just kind of like a badge of honor, I guess, right? If I discover one of these proofs.
Yeah, 100%. It is. The good thing is like there'll be quite a lot of these proofs. So unlike the golden ticket, which only there's like 5 of them, if I remember right, and you don't need to eat like a ton of chocolate. You can like see these proofs and utilize them. And you're right. Each of these verifications of these like Ethereum proofs, what it actually unlocks is the entire state of Ethereum in that proof. You have a checkpoint on the entire state of Ethereum. That is mind-boggling that you can just carry that and verify and validate information anywhere on other chains and other applications in your smart contract, wherever you want. That really is the power of Signal and ZK. something that we want to highlight through mainnet beta. I think we spoke about this like earlier as well. Like, and I keep getting asked this question. It's like, it's not a test net. And like, no, it's not, because we're using live funds to actually facilitate these transactions. Now, the interesting thing is, I just got notified like just before I got on this call that like the community has rallied around and raised over $1 million now to prove the next cycle in these small $10 increments. $1 million has been collected for the next chain and the next, and we are going to keep doing this. My real hope is that Boundless definitely has a revenue model and like, customers, and we grow in that domain, but we also focus on building these public goods that are useful and applicable to everybody. This is something that we want to double down on for sure, mostly because we are in a unique position to be the ones building it. I don't have a stake in like one L1 or the other one, or we're not playing favorites. We're building the bridge across these L1s, these state machines. That actually solves so many problems. There's a lot of liquidity fragmentation, one, which leads to UX fragmentation or UX discomfort or poor UX. Apart from that, it also costs money. When you have to move shit around, when you need to trust information from one chain to another, there's like so much money involved. It again like demotivates people trying to build applications and so on. We've shown our ability to build these applications. Now I think it's slowly turning into a moral obligation to like keep investing in these things. We're going to, of course, work with these L1s, our partners as well in building this infrastructure, especially partners who benefit from it. The ability to do ZK bridging elevates companies that work in bridging right now. They can move up the stack, offer more complicated products, more complex products to its customers. We want to keep doing things like this. This is why I get up in the morning. Yeah.
Hell yeah, Shiv. One thing that we talked about was proving. So on the signal, we talked a lot about proving Ethereum's consensus, and we talked a lot about interoperability as one amazing kind of second order consequence, if you will, of outcome as a result of this verification happening. That being with other chains, right? We had Thomas from Stellar on, we had Robinson from Wormhole, right? And we just kind of talked about that component. I'm curious, over the last couple of weeks, as you guys have been iterating throughout this, and congrats on raising the million. I think last time I checked, it was around 400K, so more than doubled there. As you guys have iterated on this, and kind of gotten more teams interested, has there been any new kind of like unique use cases or angles or ideas that have been shared externally or kind of discussed internally that you can share? Just kind of like interested in understanding the evolution as you guys have kind of taken this from like an idea phase into full experimentation into execution. What has changed? What kind of thought processes have came up that maybe weren't present when you first started? Just kind of curious what new ideas have been kind of have sprouted as a result of actually putting this to practice.
Yeah, so I'm a markets guy. My background is engineering, but as a sort of executive, quote unquote, most of my career is in like launching rideshare markets, digital services, physical goods, Amazon, Coinbase, Lyft, Grab. That's really my bread and butter, or how I sort of constructed my career. I have been blown away by the velocity of this marketplace. Like, there is nothing I have ever seen in my life evolve so quickly. Let me give you some context here. So when we launched Grab in like multiple countries, multiple cities, I used to run the driver incentive, pricing, and customer onboarding team. So pricing, which is like full economics, it's the main lever through which you control rideshare. And the way we used to make adjustments was you would have the market launch, then like people would process the information, provide it to us, and then after that, you process it again and like come up with conclusions. Executives would sign off, and you'd evolve the market. Absolutely crazy. Takes 4 or 5 weeks, but we thought we were the shit. We were like, this is so quick. Uber can't keep up. Travis Kalanick is struggling against us. This is amazing. Like, we're awesome. Once we have a public market like this, I've never opened a market where not only is the code open, how we function, the tokenomics, the software, everything is open. Everybody started tearing us apart and going like, oh, this is what the basic system does. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to improve how I do my bids. I'm going to improve how I manage my jobs. I'm going to improve how I manage my cluster. I'm going to have every single aspect of it started getting better. People started betting on who's going to complete a job, who's not going to complete a job, who's going to get ahead of a job. So many different things. The market has evolved so much that we actually have a high schooler who's dominating the leaderboard right now. I don't know his name. 𝗗𝗓𝗦𝗧𝗟𝗏, my friend. I really, really love what he's doing.
How do you know he's a high schooler?
I think Jacob, our PM, is in touch with him. But like, I think he wanted to be a non, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. No one needs to know who you are. We will, however, know if there is a high schooler driving around in a Ferrari. But but it is interesting that people with smaller rigs putting in the time can like make this go burr. So that to me tells me that the marketplace is functioning. A, people are innovating. Two, the third thing that has caught me by surprise is nearly all the proofs are $0. Basically, the subsidy effect of the token is so strong that everybody is willing to just take payment in the emissions of the tokens and not charge customers anything. I don't think this will be the case forever. Can't possibly be the case forever. But what it does suggest is that the discount factor due to the token, the subsidy effect, is going to be extremely high. Thereby, proofs on Boundless are going to be unbelievably cheap, which is fantastic news for everybody. That is the bet that, to be honest, like a lot of us had made about building a marketplace, that we have to be at least cheaper than running shit on AWS, but we are orders of magnitude cheaper than anything. Currently it's $0, so we're infinitely cheaper, but if you are 150th the price, 120th the price, that's amazing, right? If I told you AWS cost went down by 95%, you'd be like, holy shit, that just means I'm going to get like 40 times the application that I already had. People are going to build more stuff, or my apps are going to have more applications are going to have more features. So there are going to be lots of things I can do because AWS infrastructure cost just went down. So that's really what we're seeing. And apart from that, like, this also helped us fine tune a lot of our tokenomics. Assumptions that we had made are being validated, so we are strengthening them. The next 2-3 weeks for us is going to be about like publishing our tokenomics, making sure everybody understands what they are, why it works. I know, Rob, you like spoke to our team in SBC. You spoke to the guy who loves talking about tokenomics. So that's amazing. We want to make sure everybody understands where we're headed with this. A lot of teams are decentralized in name only. I call them dinos. But we really, really, really value decentralization. We want it to be decentralized and permissionless from day one. It is not a talking point for us. If you actually observe the industry, if you take a 100-foot view of the industry, the chains, the protocols, the networks that survive the longest are the ones that belong to the community in a very real sense. Bitcoin is one such network that will exist forever. Ethereum is getting there, and some of the other chains are also trying to get there as well. You need to be completely decentralized and owned by the community. Then there shouldn't be a centralized figure. I actually tell my team this as well. For our token and our network to actually succeed, for us to achieve our mission, I need to vanish, and I have no qualms about doing that. In like 5-6 years, like, I'm running my competitor podcast, the Validity Rollup with Shiv. But
the roll-up's going to be stage 2 long before that happens, Shiv.
We have an offer for that as well, offering for that as well. But it's important that the team is able to move away. And here's the most important thing: for periods of time, long periods of time, days on end, Boundless and 𝘂𝑚 were not proving on the network. We had pulled all our machines out. We're not there. And the network just performs fine. We're doing 20 trillion cycles plus. So that to me is the ultimate sort of thing that I wanted to see, which is like, in fact, today is actually a recharge day at Boundless. Everybody started looking a little bit tired, and I was like, okay, guys, how about take the Friday off? I have some podcasts and stuff. I'll be fine, but you can take off. And the reason I'm very comfortable doing that is like, the network's got it. There's other provers. They'll do whatever is necessary. If something goes wrong, someone's going to tell me. This is the state that we wanted to hit. So we're very happy we're there.
Well, you sound very comfortable, which is an unusual position that from pre-TGE kind of gearing up to TGE. This is not the state that founders are typically in. If you look at all their charts, and now you look at your contrarian signaling pre-TGE, I'm bullish. But I am curious, just kind of as we wrap up here the next few minutes, we want to make sure that you can recharge today as well. What comes next? Like if the network's got it, provers are proving, verifiers are verifying, everything's cooking. What you guys you don't just recharge forever. I know you should, but you don't just recharge. Like what's coming up next? What do you have in the pipeline?
I mean, I'm from Seattle, ex-Amazon. We don't rest. There is no rest. It's always day one. I know Coinbase likes saying that, but it's like an Amazon lingo actually. I'm also former Coinbase, so it's day one everywhere. But for us, like it's about ramping up more and more demand. We're doing Ethereum proofs. We want to prove other chains as well. We're already in talks with like a bunch of them. The community is actually proving on what the next chain should be. We'd like to start doing that, ramping up more and more demand. And as we do that, we're going to find that, and I'm honestly going to admit this, like some prover will fall over. He'll be like, yo, like I maxed out, something broke. I don't know what's going on. I got my my stack into like a weird state. Like, can you help me unblock it? All that is fine. In fact, I wake up every day at 5 a.m. mostly to debug clients in the other half of the world, because they're usually like, hey, I have 400 machines. How come I'm not crushing this? Why is there a high schooler crushing me? What's going on here? And helping them debug, like scale up. I want to do all of that because it's going to be a double-sided game now. We are a supply-driven market, but we have shown through tokenomics and our early success that the supply is already there and it's coming in like huge droves, which is fantastic news. So the drivers are there. We want to make sure now that demand catches up, then supply catches up, demand catches up. That's how you build a market. If you overinvest on one side, you get such a huge imbalance that it knocks you out. You don't want that. You don't want supply or demand shocks. You want to make it rise. I also want to, there's lots of business processes that need to be set in place such that I can get early indication of more demand coming, more supply coming, how to manage that. All of that stuff needs to be set in place. That's the management side, which, to be honest, I don't want to gloat, but like I've done it a couple of times. I know I can just like whip it up pretty quickly, and we have a very experienced team. The technical side is going to get interesting. So folks who are very familiar with AWS, if you go to buy EC2, you don't buy EC2. EC2 has like 700 SKUs under it. What are the different SKUs for us? How do you segment our market? Like these are things that like I know you guys are great friends with Jacob, but like these are the questions I pose him on a daily basis. It's like, if you were like, if you had 20 years of experience, your next question is segment the market. Product market fit is first step. Next step is segment it. You want to see who are the people demanding all these proofs? Why are they coming here? What do they expect? What are they not getting? Who's getting turned off? Who are we losing? Onboarding, retention, get the cycle all done. So there is a intense amount of work left. The reason why maybe I'm a little bit more chilled out is because I trust my team. I say this on Twitter, and like every other chance I get is like, I don't deserve such a good team yet. I am not a good enough CEO yet. I have to work really hard to like deserve a team that is willing to spend so many hours, focus on what's important, learn so quickly, teach as well. Like not all of us, observe crypto Twitter so closely or like manage every trend. It's a dual-sided process. Jacob teaches me a lot. Hopefully I teach him something as well. And it's similar with everybody else as well. I've worked with like $1 billion budgets for marketing, but I've never done marketing on CT before. So I need like, my marketing guys to keep me in check, but I can also like tell them a little bit about like what happens when you have $1 billion and you have to do onboarding on Lyft. So there's like interesting things here. So all the challenges of running a good business, but it is a good business. So I am happy for that. Yeah.
I mean, Shiv, the question that the audience wants to know is when does Boundless become its full system? When do we get the token incentive flywheel coming? What is the immediate future for Boundless? Wrap us up here, and then we'll close out.
It's in the order of weeks and not months, is my answer. So you don't have to wait too long. My birthday is on October 21st, and then I turn too old. So we are going to launch before that, is what I'll say. We're definitely launching before that. I want to enjoy my birthday by myself.
Shiv,
right,
thank you,
Shiv.
man. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being a part of verifying the signal. Enjoy the rest of your recharge. It's always a pleasure, man.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Thanks, Shiv. See ya.
Bye.
Best podcast voice. I gotta say, Shiv's got a great podcast voice. He's still in the audience, so he heard me say that. But I would tell it straight to his faces too.
Well, you just did there, bud.
I'd love to have him back on, either when the token launches, or for his birthday, or whichever comes first. So we'll see Shiv again sometime soon. Interesting times in the ZK world. Andy.
Happy Friday, Rob. It's time to rest and recharge. Got a bit more work to do. Great stream. We're back. Next week, we get rolling. Thanks for being here, guys. Thank you, Rob. Thank you to your dogs. Thank you to the jets that flew over. To Marcelo for the special guest segment. To all the guests and learnings and the laughs and the fun times today. See you guys next week.
Andy, thank you for keeping it real. Have a good weekend, buddy.